Welcome to the Regional Trans Podcast, Series 2. This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Dja Dja Wurrung. I'd like to pay my deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded, and we acknowledge First Nations sister girls, brother boys, trans and gender diverse people have always been part of the lands, stories and communities. My name is Brodie Clayton, and today we're joining you from Thorn Harbour Country in Bendigo, where trans and gender diverse people from across regional Victoria have come together for a day of connection, storytelling and shared learning. In this series, every episode is shaped by the participants themselves, their insights, their questions and their lived experience. Our aim is to amplify regional voices, celebrate our resilience and build a deeper understanding of what it means to be trans in rural and regional communities. We'll be diving into personal stories, community wisdom, moments of vulnerability, and moments of joy. We invite you to listen with curiosity, care, and with an interest in growing a deeper awareness of the trans lived experience, recognising that people's experiences are diverse, complex, and valid. Regional Trans Podcast Series 2 has been supported through Victoria's Pride, a partnership between the Victorian Government and Midsummer. Today, we are exploring Episode 4, What Safety Means to Us, exploring our perspectives on safety, how we can create it how people can create it for themselves and others, and what it means to be safe and unsafe as transgender people. So, safety is quite a broad term. So I think a good way to start us off is looking at what safety means for all of us, what it feels like, what it looks like for you.
Yeah, so safety, it's a big word, and it does mean different things to different people. So, yeah, I'm curious. Does anyone have a sense of safety that they can describe?
I think it's a lot easier to describe feeling unsafe than feeling safe, and maybe I'm gonna start from there and let's see where we go. I think feeling unsafe for me is being on edge a lot of the times, and I think hyper analyzing other people's body language, the words that they use to see what part of myself am I allowed to show to certain people. I think, so feeling safe just means whenever I don't have to do that, whenever I'm just allowed to be silly and I don't have to constantly be aware of the room a lot of the times. I think safety is just a weight off your shoulders and just being able to breathe and be yourself, and I don't have to censor myself.
The absence of that censorship. Yeah.
For me, I feel safe if there's a pizza joint nearby.
Oh, yeah. As I said, safety is different for all of us.
Yeah.
That might be familiar for others.
The pizza part or the safety?
Well, I've never been disrespected in a pizza joint, you know?
Okay.
I feel like safety, it's definitely like being able to be yourself in like you're like in the environment that it is. Because I feel like when you're safe, you feel like you're like, oh, I'm safe. I can like be open with what I am, what I'm doing, and you don't have to like as I said, like hyperanalyze, stress. You're just like, yep. I'm good and like safe.
Yeah.
I think it's also seeing other people who are like you in whatever shared identity that we have. So seeing other queer person, seeing other trans person, seeing another Asian person, for me, like, okay, I'm not the only one here. Okay,
yeah.
Great. This is great. At least I have one person there.
Also, I've got to retract my earlier statement. I have been with a friend who was misgendered at a pizza restaurant the other week. Sorry, Eddie.
Just going back to what Kay said earlier, which was that if just the whole not being alone in a space, right, can really, really help with like the safety aspect. Like for me now, it's like I don't have to be the only trans person in my office. Walking through the masculine workplace from a previous episode, and finding someone wearing a trans lanyard, that was really, really helpful because like the symbols can also really, really help with safety. If you see people walking around with like ally lanyards or like trans lanyards or something like that, then you can feel like you're really, really, that you have someone that will have your back if something does happen. And you also don't expect something to go wrong at that point, because there are other people in similar boats, in their similar experiences. So that's really, really helpful to help your safety, particularly at work, because we are starting to see more and more queer signs of inclusion around, whether that's like walking through the shopping center and seeing it's okay to be you, or like little pride stickers on the front doors of shops is really, really helpful. So yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate to the sense of feeling unsafe as being the baseline, and then the absence of that sense of fear, discomfort, whatever that is, to then leading into this sense of safety. And I think that picking up from all of those things that you've said, including the pizza shop, this sense of belonging where, you know that there's a part of you that's being accepted and welcome into this place, whether it's to buy a pizza or whether it's to work or whether it's to, whatever part of your identity it is. And I feel like for me, it doesn't have to be that I'm in a trans space or even that I see a trans lanyard. It's really that people just see me as a person and that I feel respected and safe. I guess that the absence of somebody's going to harm me in that sense as well. That's how I feel. Yeah, Aaron, did you have?
For me, I think safety comes down to being able to be honest, being able to be real with people, a little bit vulnerable. Like, I don't have to perform any particular way in a situation. That's what it comes down to me.
Yeah, it's nice to be authentic, isn't it?
Just that actually gives me a good point to do with like masking. It's a really good term from the autistic community, because for those who are autistic, like masking is such a significant drain on your energy. And when you're able to go, I don't even need to mask.
Yes.
It's so helpful. I don't have to hide a part of who I am from who I'm around. I can be my full authentic self. If I can feel like I can be my trans self in whatever environment that I'm in, then that's a really good way to make sure to know that I'm feeling safe. I don't have to hide it.
I really resonate with you saying that, because I feel like that is a big part of safety for a lot of us, specifically navigating within the queer community or interacting with other trans people, is this idea of that shared lived experience, that shared understanding of you can just be authentic and there's no education, there's no explaining, you can just be wholly and solely you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's like, especially it's nice with like the safety of like being with a partner that is also trans, or like in the queer community in general, but like being with the trans as well. Like my partner is also trans, and it's just so many things that we're like, oh, don't have to talk about that because you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like don't have to like be afraid to like share yourself, because it's like not in gender norms as well or anything where you're like, oh, you understand, it's fine. So you can be like, it's a lot, like it feels a lot safer being with the like similar.
See, I couldn't do that. I've got to be the special one.
Yes, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also in a relationship with a trans person, and I absolutely like feel that like there's no expectations of any particular roles being performed. There's like a lot of understanding. I don't have to explain like why, like how and why I'm feeling dysphoric. I can just like grunt out in a while I'm sitting in a puddle and be like dysphoric, and then she'll just be like, yeah, I get it. And yeah, just being supportive in ways that like I feel like only trans people can.
Yeah.
Here's a hoodie. Let's watch cartoons.
That's so real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, what sort of things can people do to help you feel safe, do you think? What sort of things, if allies or organizations, family members, were listening, what sort of things help to provide that sense of safety?
I feel a really big one is educating yourself, gaining knowledge, connecting to the community. As a regional trans person, I feel like we may all resonate with this, that the burden of education often falls to you to explain your experiences, your feelings, to be understanding, to be the one always reaching out, and it does get tiring. So I think it is really good for friends, allies, communities to really do that research themselves, do some Googling, talk to some communities, and not burden the one trans person to be the sole source of info.
I think it's also, I think for me it's intersectionality as well. I think as much as it's so important to just have, I think I feel the safest around Asian queer community, because it's like, they're similar to like having trans partners, because it's like, there are certain things that we don't have to explain. There are like cultural things that we would like talk about things and okay, you just understand. Yeah, it's frustrating. And there's a healing part of it to be like, oh yeah, you're frustrated about this too. I think there's a lot of really complicated topics that are intersecting with one another. I think having diverse communities and also really specific communities that cater to different groups of people and all of the intersections that we have is really important. I think helps with feeling safe.
That shared empathy is a great option too.
I feel like even though it doesn't seem like a lot, sometimes just having the stickers outside of like a place or business when it has like the trans flag or like the rainbow flag is just like a good way as well of showing like allyship as well, without having to be like, usually they're only like really small, so it's just like a thing you're like, know that that's a place I can go to. Like for example, like hairdressers or barbers and all that. If you see that there, you go, great.
Yeah.
I know a place that I can go to.
It shows an understanding of diversity, of like a very baseline of, okay, we see that this community is here, we recognize you, people are welcome.
Yeah, it's like such a basic, easy thing, and it's just like an easy way to be like, that's a space I can go to.
Absolutely. We'll go to Aaron, and then Abby might want to add something to that.
I say that, I had the exact same thing with the hairdresser. Like when I first moved to Bendigo, I didn't know where anything was. I didn't know what the word on the street was for the good hairdressers. So I just found one with a pride flag outside and went well.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, like for me, it was like if I'm going into a doctor's office, some of the doctors can be a little bit questionable with whether or not they're going to be informed, right? But if I'm coming across some of the posters that are up behind us from like the Zoe Bell Collective and stuff like that, I've seen those posters on the outside of shops. I've seen those posters in doctors' offices and all kinds of places like that. And if I see something like that, I'm like, oh, great. Like I spent a couple of months unemployed earlier this year, and I went into a service in Melbourne. And it was to do with like getting outfits and stuff to go to work because I needed that at this point in time. And I walked in and took one look to my right and saw posters from like Transgender Victoria, from the Zoe Bell Collective. I'm like, oh, cool. So this isn't just a service to help cis women. This is a service to help all women. And they were explicitly out there to say, hey, we want to be as inclusive as we can. So that was really
something
helpful
about that you mentioned earlier around masking, and I think that for a lot of us trans folks, when we go into services, sometimes we do mask a little bit of our trans identity as much as we can until we feel safe. And then we can go, yeah, it's okay if they find out this about me. And I think that masking just carries so much burden because it's so exhausting. And whether it's neurodiversity, whether it's your transness, depends what it is that you are feeling safe in that space and you're masking to protect yourself. That masking is just exhausting and it feels relentless, I think, when we're consistently in spaces where we do feel unsafe. and we're guarded, and we've got to focus on that rather than focus on why we're there. It's exhausting. Yeah. So, Aaron, did you want to add?
Yeah, so I mean, it can be an element of safety sometimes. Like, it's unfortunate, but there are some situations where if someone realizes you're trans, that could be dangerous.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess.
And I think the not knowing is really hard in that space too.
Trying to guess, can I trust this person? And sometimes it feels a lot easier just to be like, okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm not trans just in case.
As we mentioned about masking, I was listening to you and listening to you as well. I feel that a big part of emotional and overall well-being and safety is tied up in that, because in my experiences as a trans person, my gender informs the way I sit, the way I talk, the way I breathe. Every single move I make is a very conscious decision, and it gets exhausting to have to hold that to a certain standard all day, every day. So it is very safe for me to have people that I can be around where I can drop that sort of focus and just be myself.
Have you ever seen Figaro Foe?
Yes.
You remind me of him.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
I was just thinking as well, actually, and this is specific to non-binary people, but I find in less accepting environments, you kind of have to performatively be binary a little bit, whereas a lot safer environments, you don't have to conform either way, like being able to be a bit more neutral.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Echuca, because it's a lot more like rural / it's just easier there because like I go by he, they. But in Echuca, I go by he, him, basically, because it's just easier to stick to one, because the like for non-binary stuff that they them, you have to explain so much, and then they're like, that's not a English thing, even though it is. But it's just easier to just be like, he, him. Get it over and done with, whereas like in like Melbourne and stuff, you can like be a bit more expressive and just be like, yep, they, them.
Well, see, if I'm ever in a space where I feel like I'm being like clocked or something, which like never happens, it's just my anxiety, it's usually just people checking me out. But if I want that like reassurance, I'll just like start talking about like, no, I can't handle the cramps, I'm having the abortion, I just can't do it. And then I know that, they're none the wiser.
I have a question, and I know I'm not hosting, but I have a question. So I think when it comes to feeling unsafe, because it is such a baseline for all of us, for me, sometimes I don't even realize that I'm asking. In fact, I don't think I know I'm asking until I'm exhausted. At the end of the day, I'm like, oh, that's why. I guess it's one thing to find a safe environment, but I think it's also another thing, in my opinion, to let yourself be safe and kind of recognizing that, I've been masking this whole time, and I have to, I'm trying to allow myself to be vulnerable, trying to let my guards down and all that. So I want to hear what everyone's kind of thoughts on that are, or do you have practices that you do in order to allow yourself to feel safe? Yeah.
Do you mean masking as in like pretending you're not transgender? Or?
Yeah, that, or pretending you're neurotypical or anything, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Or just like exaggerate, like not exaggerated, but like exaggerated on the side you are, to be like, oh yeah, like with the cramps and stuff, where you're like, I've got cramps and all that.
So what are ways that you guys pretend to be not, what's it called, neurodivergent? Like what would you do?
I think,
or what wouldn't you do?
probably I would probably censor myself a lot. I probably wouldn't say certain things, because I think if I'm around a lot of neurodivergent people, I would just say things, and I think sometimes I would try to like, okay, maybe this is not the joke, or this is not the thing to say in this group of people. It's usually that, or behaviors like stimming.
Yeah, even from the way you sit,
Yeah.
the way even what you wear in the day. Like there's definitely been times throughout the day where I've gone home and gotten changed.
Yeah.
Because I felt comfortable in the morning, going, you know what, I'm just going to wear what I feel comfortable with today. And then particular environments or things that have happened throughout the day have made me feel like, no, this isn't working for me today. I feel unsafe or uncomfortable for whatever reason. And now I need to just conform to what I believe the people in the spaces that I'm going to will have less conflict, and I will feel safer if I just conform to their needs as opposed to how I want to be. I think, does that answer that? Yeah.
No.
I love that question. Do you want to add?
I feel in the space of unlearning behaviors, because I know that was your question, is what you do to not mask. Is it's been a very conscious effort for me to my mantra is I decide what masculinity is and I decide what normal is. And so I've dyed my hair pink because boys can have pink hair, and it's really sort of challenging those rigid gender norms and those real socially expected behaviors. And because you get to decide what gender looks like, it's yours.
Yeah, I think one thing that's helped me lately is like my partner, because it's like sometimes you might not be in a so-called safe area. Like it's not unsafe, but it's like not the safe spot. But when you're with your partner, that's a safe person. You're just like, well, as long as you like, all that matters is like you care. You're fine with me. You're helping me. If someone looks at me in like something that might be like more of the like feminine side than people would think, then they'll be like, I don't care, because I don't care about their opinion. I'm just here living my life, and I've got my safe person with me to like help out, so that I'm not like fully, I guess, masking too much. I'm just like I'm who I am. I think one thing as well is I try and be very open. So I'm someone that like if someone asks me a question, I will tell them like dead set. Almost every question that anyone would ask, I'll probably answer. Because if they ask, then they can have the consequences of learning the answer. So
What's your favourite flavour of Twisties?
There's different flavors.
Cheese and chicken.
Jeez for me.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's just like that being open and like being yourself. Obviously, it's like it's hard to like sometimes like unlearn a lot of stuff, but after it's with like transitioning for the first like 2 years especially, it was like, nope, got to have like the exact like this is what a man or like this is what a masculine like looks like, and then it like is like more deterring to more of like the non-binary stuff, because I'm like I feel more comfortable being clocked as like he him more now, and then I'm like I can like be a bit more comfortable with everything as well.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah. So for me, it's like it's a lot of pretending stuff doesn't bother me. Not correcting people. Kind of trying to shrug it off, even if it does actually really bother me. Particularly with autistic, or I should say sensory related stuff, where like someone making a noise might really, really bother me. But I won't like say anything because I'm like pretending to be unbothered because I don't want to be a nuisance or feel like I'm being a nuisance.
My experience is that I notice that I've been masking usually in hindsight. I will reflect back on my my day or when I've been in a particular situation and go, yeah, that really wasn't genuine for me. I would have liked to have done more or done things differently or be myself, be more authentic. But in that moment, I feel like we're so good at trying to fit in and keep ourselves safe that sometimes we just do it on autopilot and don't always realize that I'm doing it.
When we're talking about safety too, like one thing I want to bring up is that there are certain places that we can feel safer and certain places that we can feel that we're not going to be as safe.
Like a bus stop.
A bus stop is a great example, actually. But for me, it was we were having this conversation before we started this morning, and it was just like, for me, when I came out, I was so heavily involved in the church, and I was involved in the church basically my entire life up until I transitioned. And like finding that my relationship with the church has had to change over the years, but it's very dependent on who I'm with, right? Like if I go back to my church in Ballarat, I felt like I'm not welcome because when I came out, I basically nobody spoke to me from the church anymore. But I still consider myself a Christian. I still consider myself to be involved in the church, even if I get it that there are quite a lot of people that will have issues with the church. The church has done a lot of harm. If I want to go to church, I'll generally go like maybe once a year across Christmas with my dad, because my dad was one of the people that I can be safe with. And it was like the fact that I got to go to that church and my dad referred to me as his daughter in front of people that I knew from my childhood before I transitioned. That made me feel really, really safe in that space.
Did they kick you out or you left?
One church, I felt like I was kicked out. One church was a case of I was still welcome even after I transitioned. And it was because I told the pastoral care pastor, hey, I'm going to transition. This is going to happen. And I very quickly found myself no longer on the creative team. I was no longer involved in church activities. No one spoke to me after that point. And I couldn't get to church on my own. The church was in an inaccessible spot of town. And it's a Sunday. There's no buses running, generally not nearly as effectively as during the week. And I couldn't get there. And now no one was offering a lift. No one was willing to provide any support. And no one cared. Was something that I found really, really frustrating.
It's kind of there's different levels of acceptance, isn't there? There's like this shallow, we accept you, you're whatever you want to be kind of thing, and they're really dismissive of the whole experience. And then there's the people who are really accepting and will go, actually, this is something new to me. I'm going to learn about this too so that I can be supportive of you. And, that's the kind of level that we would want from people, that they're not just, whatever. Because I feel like that's not really acceptance. I feel like it's just dismissive and they're not.
It's perhaps tolerance, but not
Tolerance is a great word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it is, tolerance, not acceptance.
Yeah.
But we really need acceptance, not tolerance.
Yeah.
We need to be accepted as who we are, not just tolerated for being around.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I reckon he would accept your love.
And that's the whole thing, right? Because Kay, you had the question. Kay.
Yeah. No, we were having this conversation before, and I was really curious because I was also brought up Christian, and I left because once I realized I was queer, that kind of started me questioning religion altogether, and for similar reasons, right? It's like, this is a religion that preaches about love and acceptance and unconditional love, and then the people in church are some of the worst people, some of the people who attacked us the most. And I think that was kind of the catalyst for me. And then I'm agnostic now, but for a variety of reasons. So
What's that mean? Sorry.
Agnostic just means that I guess it's kind of like maybe God exists or maybe God doesn't exist, but I don't really care about that.
Yeah,
that's how I define it.
You're more worried about Nicki Minaj and real stuff.
No, the question I had to Abby was, okay. I guess, what was your journey? Was there ever a clash for you in your identity and your religion, and also what value does religion bring to you now that you're still holding onto it?
Yeah, so when I was growing up as a kid, I remember that whole God is love, right? And unconditional love. That was something that was constantly preached. And then I remember seeing during the same-sex marriage plebiscite, people at the church from the pulpit speaking and saying, you should vote no on this. And I'm like, but that's not love. That's not what God is all about, right? And we often see that a lot with how we deal with the church, how the church deals with people is that, and there's a great one that I keep hearing, which is if Jesus Christ was to walk into your church, would you really let him in? And I feel like in a lot of churches right now, they're so caught up in their perceptions of things that no, he probably wouldn't be. And like, if God is love, then God loves everybody. And the whole idea of a hateful Christian doesn't make any sense to me, because that's oxymoronic when we consider the church. It's so counterintuitive to what the church is supposed to be that it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my take on that. And I've always considered it as this is supposed to be a loving place, and anyone that is not in that space of love is probably in the wrong spot.
Aaron, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, as far as I'm aware, the scriptural justification for homophobia in the church is vague. Doesn't necessarily refer to any kind of modern identity, and it's just used as an excuse by people. I find there's nothing wrong with Christianity itself, or even a lot of the churches. It's that bad actors are using it as an excuse.
It's certainly been, from my experience, that there are many different churches and there are many different congregations, but what's constant through them all is that it's people. People are going to that church. People are leading that church. And it's the people, the individual person's view, or the people that are in that congregation that kind of determine whether that is going to be accepting or non-accepting of diversity or different groups of people, and even internally within their own structure. It's very gatekeepery, and this is the way our culture within our church exists, and so you need to fit into that model. And some of them can be really productive and positive for all the people, and then others can be very limiting. So I think that broadly churches and religion is just as diverse as the rest of us as humans.
I think the way I like to put it is that if people want to use Christianity or any religion, if they want to use religion as a reason to accept queer people and accept trans people, they could have done that really easily. I think there's more teachings about love and acceptance than there is about hate. But obviously, it's up to the person whether they want to actually use their religion to accept people, or they want to use it to hurt people.
Yeah.
So love and acceptance kind of feels like the point, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But that's actually the fact that there are inclusive churches out there. There are other places that it might feel really alienating to be in a church as a trans person, but there are churches out there that are trans accepting and trans affirming, more to the point, right? Like when I was working on trans.au, we added a category called places of worship, and we added that category because it was so important to me, but it's so important to so many people when they do transition, that to feel ostracized is a real big problem. So people go looking for a trans affirming church, and I actually reached out to a church in Sydney, the Leichhardt Uniting Church, which during the same-sex marriage plebiscite, again, these people were rallying on behalf of the Yes campaign. They were saying, no, absolutely, you should vote. You should vote for this. We actually think that this is really, really, really helpful. I sent them an email and said, hey, would you like to be on this directory as a trans-affirming church? And they're like, yes. But it wasn't just a yes, please. It was I got that response within 5 minutes. It might take me 2 months to get a response from some services. To get a response from a church in 5 minutes to go, yes, I love what you're doing with creating this directory, but yes, we want to be known as the queer-friendly church in Sydney. And it's a uniting church. The uniting church has generally been pretty good, but just to get that response was so helpful, and it's so affirming for so many people.
I think it highlights that, all institutions have the opportunity to be affirming, and
Absolutely.
that us, when we're talking about safety and the sense of being safe or unsafe, that, we do need institutions, organizations, services, and individual people to be just showing signs of inclusion and being inclusive within their own culture. so that then, we know that we can feel safe in these spaces because we should. We're part of the broader community, and we should feel safe in every space that anyone else has the freedom to feel safe in. So yeah, Spencer.
Yeah, I think just also like on the like Christian side of things and safety, the one person that I thought, one of the people that I thought were going to be the biggest trouble because they were Christian and like always going to church. I went to the same church with them when I was younger. I thought they were going to be like the hardest like obstacle of them, and I think that it's my gran, and she's actually the most accepting one. I think, like I literally lend her my like LGBTQ plus books, and she just reads them.
So beautiful.
Yeah, so she'll be like, "Oh, you got a book?" And I was like, "Yep, she's about to go about 3 or 4 of mine right now."
Wow.
So this is really great for people to hear. Like, what are the things that institutions and organizations or people can do that help us as a community, as individuals, to feel safe in different spaces? What are some suggestions?
I feel like, and we've spent a lot of time today talking about individual safety, the little things, little ways that we feel safe or unsafe in the community. But I feel like as a community, and everything that we've echoed here, as a community, the safest thing is having allies and people that will show up for us and not just talk the talk. It's good to have policies. It's good to have stickers and lanyards that show you're an ally. But following that with positive action and with strong action of, calling out transphobia when you see it, of using pronouns and email signatures, of making all these little things standard practice is huge. And I think that contributes to a lot of our safety individually and collectively.
Yeah, very valid. And also, I think just leveraging off what Spencer was saying, so affirming that your grandmother is reading queer books. And I think that, that our listeners are already onto this, because I think that just hearing our stories and hearing our voices, because then people can be better prepared so that they don't inadvertently put us in unsafe spaces or make us feel unsafe, because they're better equipped to know what the difference is between us feeling safe and unsafe. I think that's really valid too.
Yeah, I think another thing I always love is like when you see pronouns in like emails. When you see, I love how recently, the last couple of years, like programs for musicals will majority of the time have the pronouns of the people. I'll go through that whole book and just be like, okay, is there any they, them? Sometimes there is. And then if I see any that doesn't have pronouns, I go, they're probably not nice. Usually I think they're like the set ones from like the producers or something, but like a lot of times I'll like look at them and go like, they might not be nice. Yeah. But yeah, it's like just the pronouns, because it's the thing of, you shouldn't have to outwardly go for the pronouns just if you're like trans. It should just kind of be the set net, like, because if a cis person comes up to you, no expectations or like anything, and they're like, oh, my pronouns are this, it's like nice. I know sometimes it can feel like a bit like, depending if it seems outwardly like just for the trans person, but it's like, that's why it's like everyone should show their pronouns. Everyone should like express that, because then it's not just like also just a pivoted point for the one person. When you're like, no, it's for everyone. And it just makes it easier as well. Just be like, oh, yep, easy.
Yeah, because everyone has pronouns. So it's the difference is that we feel like we have to use them to affirm ourselves. But if everyone uses them, then that's normalizing. Yeah.
But also, like, if you're reading content over text, like some names aren't necessarily clear about whether someone is he, him, or she, her, or they, them. Like Taylor, for example, is a great example of a name that I've met people, or Ash or whatever. I've met people of both genders, like cis people of both genders that use those names, and it's just like, cool.
Or Craig.
Yeah. Any name could.
But yeah, any name, it doesn't
belong
matter.
to anybody. Yeah.
And that's one of the greatest things about pronouns, is that like it's even better for people from another culture, because when, like, if I'm reading a name from like an Indian culture or a Filipino culture or a culture with another language, and like the names aren't a Western name, so I can't associate a gender to it. I have no idea what gender someone might be. So seeing pronouns in an email signature is really helpful, not just for trans folks, but for cis folks too.
Well, I think even when we do see a name or see a person, we still don't know their gender until they tell us, because gender is unique to each individual person. I was just wondering, Axel, you spoke earlier in our earlier episodes about the folks that you work with and how they approach you with this sense of safety and they open up to you. Just wondering if you might have some tips that how is it that you create that? How do you create that sense of safety around that willingness that people just open up to you?
I don't know. I just because most of the places where I volunteer at are queer friendly, so it's comfortable enough for me to be unmasked completely on all aspects of myself. And I think a lot of the people I work with just see that and they're like, how can they do that? And just come and approach me, and I'm just I don't know. When it comes to advice, I'm horrible at it. I'm just kind of I don't know, man.
I wonder if it's that authenticity, though, that is actually disarming for people, because, when people are just genuine and authentic, then you feel like you can be honest with them because they're being honest with you. I wonder if that in itself is enough, that, people are so often, trying to guard whatever it is about themselves that it becomes, I'm not really sure. Can I trust this person or not?
I mean, a lot of them also see me in the work role because I'm known in the work role because of me volunteering. So everyone's just we can go to them for stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, technically you can't.
Well, actually, I think that volunteering probably carries a lot of trust anyway, because if somebody is genuinely giving up their time, then that's kind of a kindness in itself, right? Yeah.
You had a question, Aaron?
Yeah, I was just going to be on the topic of cis people also having pronouns. It does affirm them too. A lot of stuff that's considered specific to transgender, gender affirming care, is stuff cis people have.
Yeah, I guess that some folks feel like they have this privilege of, well, you can see my gender and you can hear my gender, so you should know my gender. But actually, no, we don't know that. You might look a particular way or sound a particular way, but we're not going to make the assumption of your gender.
Some people even get their back up when you don't assume their gender.
Yeah, it is.
But gender is a spectrum. So assuming anything about someone's gender is you're going to get it wrong, because where people sit on that spectrum are very different places.
Yeah. It's interesting that people do get offended by when you don't assume their gender. I wonder what that means for that person. Maybe that's a whole nother podcast. Because that's
I was going to say, I don't think we can get the answer to that one. I don't know.
I think it usually comes down to fragile masculinity or femininity at that point, right?
Well, that's what it seems to be.
They feel challenged on something. They feel like they're not ready to be challenged on.
Well, this is really interesting, isn't it? Because if somebody gets that offended by us not assuming their gender, which assumes that they could be any gender, then how is it that they're offended that we want to affirm our gender?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that goes together.
It's pretty.
I wish it's that easy, isn't it? Because I wish people would just understand that it's the same thing. It's the things that we're looking for is not that different from what cis people are looking for.
Nope.
The gender affirming care, this is something I try to explain to my cis friends. When you go to the gym, when you wear makeup, that's your gender affirming care. We also do the same thing, but somehow when we do it, that's a whole it's a big deal. And we have to debate it in Congress, and everybody has to have opinions about it. All of these people with other podcasts and but like even with like things like top surgery, the same top surgery that I got is the same top surgery that cis guys would get if they have gynecomastia. It's the same thing, but somehow when I do it, it's a big deal.
Or
Yeah.
if they're just fat.
Yeah, or any kind of like
Yeah, body cosmetics are happening all the time, and it's not questioned
Do you
if
know,
it's cisgender.
I have had no work done and I'm a trans woman, and heaps of the girls who used to bully me at school have had a lot of work done to their face. And I'm like, wow. So who was unhappy?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good point.
But like gender affirming care and gender affirming items for like people, it extends so much further than like surgery and all of that. Like we have so much in terms of our social transition, like what we wear. For a lot of people, what we drive, like the cars that we drive.
Yeah.
The massive trucks that people are driving now. It's I heard someone refer to that as a gender affirming car. But like, and then I've got friends that are driving like the Subaru Outback, which is the lesbian car, thanks to a very clever advertising campaign from Subaru. But like, that's just, it's like whether we wear dresses or jeans or we wear like makeup and jewelry and all kinds of different things like that. It's all gender affirming in some way, shape or form to somebody. And it's very different depending on the person because it's all very personal to you
Yeah.
in terms of what is gender affirming and what isn't.
I'm just curious. We're just sort of coming to the end of this episode, but before we wind up, I'd love to sort of pose this thought and perhaps question to each of you, that when we're feeling unsafe, as you've explained, we feel that, and it's the absence of that helps us to recognize that we're feeling safe. But I'm wondering if you have an example or an experience where the sense of safety, when you have felt safe, it has you felt that in other ways. You felt positive reaction from that. So for me, an example is that when I feel safe, I think clearer. I can do things better. The absence of the weight of the unsafety allows me just to do so much more and to do it so much better. So I'm wondering if others have that sort of experience where when you have felt safe, you've been able to achieve something or do something different to normal. Like, yeah.
When you feel safe or unsafe?
When you feel safe, what's a good example of what you can achieve when you feel safe? Like what feels good to you, like, or that you get to do? Is there anything that you can think of that?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you. Like when I feel safe, I definitely feel like I can, because I'm an artist, so I draw a lot, and sometimes I know that I'm in a safe environment when ideas just flow through me. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on a roll. This is great. I'm also very funny if I feel safe. I would tell jokes and I would crack people up, but sometimes I would hold myself back when I feel like, oh, this is, trying to like sense the room and sense everybody's feeling. So, yeah.
Like if I'm staying somewhere I feel unsafe, I can't go to the toilet. But if I feel safe, I'm going.
Amazing.
I talk a whole lot more when I feel safe. I've in being a gay trans man, I've started navigating male-only spaces, queer male spaces, and heading into those spaces, it was very intimidating. Being like, will I be accepted? Will I be seen? Or will I not be even allowed to set foot in this place? And the community I found was so welcoming and opening and accepting of me that I turned into a suspiciously big social butterfly.
I love that. What a great outcome.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same. Like, yeah, when you feel safe, it's just like everything just goes out, or if someone mentions like a topic, you like your safe topic, you're like, oh, you know about that? You're there for 2 hours.
Story.
It's like, oh.
I had that at work. Like, I think I got involved. I got asked to do LGBT like Pride ally training at work. I wasn't expecting it, and all of a sudden it was that morning, and we were just like, oh yeah. So this training normally takes an hour. We've allocated an hour and a half. We were still going 2 hours later.
It's beautiful. Aaron, did you have any?
Yeah.
to add?
So when I first said what safety means to me, I said it was like honesty and vulnerability. I think it extends to myself as well, where I'm able to be a lot more honest with myself, a lot more almost self-critical in a more healthy way than the sort of self-consciousness that comes with being in less safe spaces. A bit more introspective.
That's a beautiful outcome. Yeah. Thank you all for coming along to episode 4. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in episode 5. Uxbridge!